5 years ago, this part of the city was submerged in water. Few cities were hit harder by Hurricane Sandy than Hoboken.
You have two absolutely delightful young boys, but they've experienced things in the past few years you would never want any child to experience. What impact did the war, the conflict in Syria have on them?
He was 10 months old when the war started and the shelling and the bombing began. He would feel extremely scared and he would start screaming because of the sounds.
In ballet, we're not only seeing diversification on stage, but also among the audiences that are coming to the Met night after night. Since being named as principal dancer, what's really struck you about the crowd you're seeing coming to the Met?
It's incredible to be able to look out and see a diverse group of faces.
Speaking with those young girls and boys, do they tell you stories of prejudice, encounters they've had where racism has been involved in ballet?
Yes.
That still exists?
To this day. I don't think that's something that's just going to go away overnight.
You've said that Midnight's Children feels like a halftime report and that the second half deserves its own novel. When you look at where India's come in the past 70 years, what does the second half of that novel look like?
Well, on the one hand, it's doing much better than anybody thought it would.
And the hope is this camera technology sets an example nationwide at a time when the relationships between police departments and many of the communities they serve are tense.
How big a game changer is it to policing?
I believe it's a very positive tool in the world of policing.
Members of the public can't view that footage unless they file for a lawsuit, correct? And if so, is that fair? A lot of people don't have the resources to go forward and file that lawsuit. We've come down to Camden High School. We're going to meet with one of the teachers here. His name's Keith Benson. He's been a long-time critic of the police force, and he also doesn't buy this argument that the city officials have put forward that Camden is experiencing this so-called renaissance. Your book comes out at an interesting time, a seismic political shift. The Southern Poverty Law Centre now saying 400 hate crimes committed in the week after this election. What's this period post-election told you about the state of race in America?
What we're seeing now has been a backlash to 8 years of a black presidency.
You say hate becoming normalised. I know as journalists sometimes we become almost numb and desensitized, especially when you focus on an issue for a long period of time. I wonder what impact, though, this has on you personally.
I'm a very visibly Muslim woman. I wear the hijab every single day. And so every time I step out of my home, I step out of the office, I'm very conscious of that.
Every year, hundreds of thousands of inmates are released from prison. The reality is the majority will be rearrested. The challenges faced when coming home are immense. Tonight, we want you to meet Lorenzo Brooks. He spent 30 years in prison, convicted of second-degree murder. He recently returned home. What went through your mind when you found out that you were going to finally be able to leave prison?
I literally cried. I was so happy, you know, I literally had water coming out of my eyes.
Tommy Robinson has also said that the Islamic community will feel the full force of the English Defence League if we see any of our British citizens killed, maimed or hurt on British soil ever again. Are you not normalising a very dangerous set of beliefs here?
But I think a lot of the people who even play this or even have this conversation are normalizing these beliefs, giving them the airtime.
What about the safety of Muslim students on your campus?
First, I don't think he didn't incite violence at the event. If you look at the...
Not the event, but his past comments, as we heard in that soundbite. Is that not inciting hate? And what about the safety of Muslim students on campus? You had a chance to visit the United Nations this week. If you had to pick 2 or 3 words to describe your experience, what you thought of those hallowed halls, what would you go for?
I will go for amazing.